Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the What Else Is Going On podcast. I am your host, Taria. For those of you that are listening, you don't know who I have on yet, unless, of course, you read the description. For those of you watching, you probably do know who I have on. Now, this is someone that I have wanted to talk to ever since he stepped foot onto our screens. And of course, I want to talk to him about the screens and the things, but more so his life and the impact that he just has on people. Y'all, I am talking to the one, the only Mr. Preston Mitchum. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Look, what an introduction. Every time someone introduces me, I'm like, wow, I am great. Thank you.
You are, listen, and
No,
I
I
am.
appreciate you.
Listen, I appreciate you. And I have to shout out to your longtime friend, my new friend, Carlos Harris, for putting this
Yes.
together. I told him, I said, one day I'm going to be able to pay you to be like my publicist or something. And
Oh, yeah.
because he's just so great with that stuff. Like he's
He
amazing.
really, he really is. I have known Carlos for a decade plus at this point, and
Wow.
he is just always a great connector, a kind spirit, a gentle person, and just someone who you just want to go to for everything. Advice, cooking recipes, TV shows, like you
Yes.
name it, he had the recommendation for it.
Yes. And let me tell you, he pushed me to start my YouTube channel. I've been podcasting since 2016, but I keep saying my other one is on a hiatus. It's been about 4 years now since it's been on hiatus because I started this one. But he would say, so when you start your YouTube, I think we can talk about this. Oh, so when you start and I would be giving him excuses and he would respond in a way that would be like, I see you, but I'm going to
Uh-huh.
still, you're going to do this.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I
Like there,
appreciate
there,
him.
there are reasons and there are excuses, and he will definitely cut the middle of what it is.
And you don't have nothing else to say because I would be trying to be,
Exactly.
normally I feel like my wit and smile can kind of prolong things. And he's like, nah, I kind of see through that. So you're just procrastinating. So like,
No, that's
okay,
him. That is him.
I got you, friend. I got you. So I'm excited because I am a very emotional person, right? So I'm not going to get emotional saying this to you, but
Yeah.
ever since I saw you on the screen having this conversation, I know that you've talked about it. You actually were just in, Carlos just did an article on you for Swerve
Mhm.
Magazine. Y'all, I'm going to put the link in the description. It is amazing. I read it twice.
Yes.
Between the article itself and the cover, I said, if he don't give us face,
No.
body, clothes, leg, come on,
look,
Preston.
look, legs and hips.
You were giving it to us, and
Thank
y'all talked
you.
about your Black excellence conversation. I have listened to you on multiple platforms, from interviews that you've done years ago to recent ones, and this conversation always comes up. But I wanted to make it a little personal to you and thank you because I'm a woman of a particular age with children of particular ages. And I was just going through my life cycling about a week before Martha's Vineyard came on. So my kids, I have two kids in college. And my husband works. Thank God he works so that I can kind of do this stuff. But I'm like, I do ride share. I did it well before COVID. And I was like, well, let me pick it up again. Kids are gone, blah, blah, blah. So I have a lot of time in the car to think, and you start rethinking
Yeah.
your life and what you could have, would have, should have. I was in college that I wasn't, and all these things. So I was literally
Mhm.
thinking, like I said, I think it was the same week Martha's Vineyard came out. I'm driving. And I was like, the thought popped in my head, wow, as smart as I think I am, if people named people that I knew and called them Black excellence, I wouldn't be on the list. This was a week
Absolutely.
before you had the conversation. And I'm
Mm.
saying I'm watching my youngest who has a voice like I had. She is, and I told her all about you because she's going for political science. She may go the law
Mm-hmm.
track. She may become a teacher. Since she was a young girl, she's talked about things going on in society. And I heard an interview you did talking about you were that kid
Yeah.
that was like, did you guys hear about
Yeah.
that? That's her. So
Yeah.
I'm watching
Yep.
her,
Yep.
seeing that she has a future ahead of her, wondering if my voice was still valuable. So I literally said to myself,
Mm.
if people named Black excellent people in Black excellence, you would not be on that list. I felt let my
Absolutely.
feelings have it. Here comes,
Yeah.
as my friend Kendrick from Reality and Comics 2 calls it, here comes Martha's house. He calls it
Yeah.
Martha's because we Black folks over here, right? Here comes
Yeah.
Martha's house.
Uh-huh.
And they're cheering to Black excellence. And I immediately started feeling a way like here I am watching the show, some of them, they're all younger than me, and I'm feeling a certain way. And you talked about Black excellence. And in that moment, a cloud that I have been carrying lifted off of me.
Mm,
Thank you for that.
mm,
I appreciate you so much.
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is these stories that are important, right? Because of course, I mean, I've had this conversation for years before I became on reality TV. But and frankly, for me, it was an intentional moment because I knew people would keep saying it. And so I'm like, what better way to bring what I've thought for years to this space to kind of actually lift everything out of there, right?
Mm,
Like, it's not to say we're never going to say it again, but I really do want people to think more intentionally around what they mean when they say Black excellence, which is
hmm.
why I started to like use hashtag expanding Black excellence because
Yes.
maybe the issue for me was not necessarily the word, the phrase, even though I do believe that some of it is lifted from white standards. I
Come
really
on.
do. And at the same time, acknowledging that, like, maybe my issue is actually with who can only be considered excellent in Black. And
Mm,
so I'm like, well, what about the everyday person, right? What about someone who actually doesn't care to go to college, doesn't know to go to college, doesn't have the resources to be connected to folks in college, right? It is very easy, I think, and privileging for folks to pretend that college is just an easy thing to have access to and to get into.
hmm.
And, I'm like, but that's maybe not true, right? Like, I'm very much a first generation college grad. And so, like, when I was filling out FAFSA, when I tell you I had no idea what I was doing, right? I just
Yeah.
knew we had an EFC of zero because my family was poor,
Okay.
right? But that also didn't mean like suddenly I qualified for all these scholarships. Some of them I
Come
did, but
on.
most of it was absolutely me taking out loans because of poverty.
Yes.
And
Same.
so, it's just it's a trick ultimately. And I finally realized, right, like that a lot of folks who use Black excellence are happy to be categorized under it. At the end of the day, they're people who just trick capitalism,
Mm,
right? And not everyone has the privilege to trick capitalism. And so I just really want people to be more introspective with their own thinking and their own like positionality in society. Right. It's easy to say something isn't is cheap. It's easy to say all those things, but it's like because you have it, because
yes.
you have access to it, because you don't struggle. And
Yes.
people just need to be honest about that.
I let me tell you, I appreciate that. And people also need to pay attention to what people say versus what you're hearing them say. Because
Yeah.
when you said it, I didn't hear because I've heard you, like I said, on different interviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I never thought that you hated the term. You didn't like that the term
Mm-hmm.
wasn't inclusive of
Yeah.
people. And so my youngest and I actually had this conversation about Black excellence,
Mm-hmm.
and she said she felt the same way. Our good sis Ebony Williams, she
Mm-hmm.
podcast a couple years ago, and I asked her, the thought popped into my mind, how do you feel about Black girl magic, the term? Because for me, I
It's
get the sentiment, but it's the same as the Black excellence.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all to me. It's one and the same. Black girl magic, black boy joy, black excellence. And again, and I get why there's reasoning for each of them, right? Like
Yes.
black girl magic, right? You can easily discuss like how a lot of black women and girls are not actually characterized a particular way, and so
Mhm.
and are largely discredited, right? We think of black boy joy a lot of times around black men, right? A lot of us don't get to experience joy and happiness,
Mhm.
right? Like when it comes to black excellence, right? It's like it's really us pushing back on these systems of white supremacy by saying like, hey, we actually made it in this like white, like patriarchal, heteronormative society. And at the same time, all of it is still problematic, right? Because we're still centering whiteness in a way to
Yes.
actually make ourselves feel joy. And I don't,
Mm,
I just don't care enough about whiteness to do that, right? Like I'm just
mm.
like, who are we? Who are, like, irrespective of whiteness, right? Like, who are we? Who are black folks?
Right. And when you hear the term magic, if you think of any magic shows you've seen, it's like it wasn't there. Poof, and now it is. Not the work that goes
Exactly.
behind it. So it's not magic, Glenn. Although it looks magical, it's not always
Uh-huh.
magic being a Black woman. There's a lot of work
Mm,
that goes into it, and it doesn't just come out as I'm sorry, the background isn't just magic. That's just how you
right.
see it. So then it kind of sometimes I feel like in non-Black women's eyes looks easy, like,
Yep.
oh, and it's like, no, baby, a lot went into making all of
Hmm.
this.
It also plays into a very harmful trope of like being the superhero,
Mm,
right? And black women saving the day all the time. I mean, it reminds me oftentimes of how everyone has this very like political conversation every 2 to 4 years around like Black women are gonna do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, actually, Black women do it for themselves. We just happen to reap the benefits because they're saving themselves. Right.
Every
Like it's
day.
not on Black women to save other people. And so it's very interesting to me where, people are just like, oh, these people have to vote, they have to do this. And it's like, let's actually discuss what that really means and who's that's putting who the onus is ultimately falling on.
Right. Right. I agree. See, I knew. I knew I loved you. I'm telling you from that conversation. I knew.
Look,
Yeah. I
I
listen.
appreciate you.
Listen, and there's a lot of people that love. I'm telling you, it was just Preston, 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 and I was excited because I was watching a Black man who has described himself, and this is what I was going to get into next, which I love. You did a podcast some years ago and called "Let's Talk, Bruh," and they
Mm,
asked you, you're only allowed to say one word that introduces you to our audience. What is
mhm,
that one word? And you picked unapologetic about anything and everything. And when I
mhm.
sat back and thought about that, it's almost like, and people could get the notion, well, that means that he's not sorry about anything. Exactly. He's not sorry
And
about
not
who he is
right.
and who he has become. And I love that because there's something about seeing a person be unapologetic in their stance and not wavering. So my question to you is, you shared your past before, with your family and different things. Where did that come from? Was that nurtured in you, or was that through experience that you became unapologetic? Because for some people, I know for me, I used to be that way. Then it was I went to a majority all white elementary school, and then in high school was more Black people, and college, my campus was Black, but it was, don't say that, don't talk too loud, just be quiet because we don't want them to think. So I felt like it was kind of extinguished a little bit in me, and now at
Wow.
46, this particular age,
Mhm.
it's back, and I'm like, I'm unapologetic. But for you, when did you first start feeling that and living in it?
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, 46, God has been good to you because baby. Uh but the reality is it was all nurture. I mean, it was not nurtured. Let me clarify
Okay.
that. It was absolutely not nurtured. All of it was through experience. And
Okay.
that is not to say that people were not looking, toward me or supporting me. But I just, my family, and I talk to them about this if I'm being honest, like I really wish I came from a family where I can remember a lot of love and support. Like I just don't, right?
Mhm.
Like, and my therapist often tells me that, because of the experiences I've had, I probably actually just learned to avoid a lot of things. So my memory growing up is actually pretty bleak with many things because I think I just retreated oftentimes.
Okay.
And so a lot of that does not mean I had the worst childhood in the world, but I've had pretty significantly bad memories where it made me retreat away from even probably the good ones at times.
Okay.
And so, I just, of course, I remember the occasional I love yous, right? And different things that did feel affirming. But, the areas that I really wish I received a lot of support in, I didn't, right? Like I really remember wanting to do more things creatively and wanting to like explore being involved in certain after school activities. And, and my family was never like, they were never like a family that was homophobic per se. I couldn't ever say that, but they certainly weren't LGBTQ affirming either, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so because the lack of affirmation was there, to me, homophobia actually still was present, right?
Okay.
Because, we were definitely proud to be Black, right? We talked about all the Blackness and everything that was there, but there was nothing any other communities that were really called attention to. And I have to give the grace of like recognizing time and timing, right? There are certain things we were just not discussing at that time, and it still didn't make me feel good,
Yes.
right? Like I can
Mhm.
acknowledge there are multiple truths in that. And so for me, I think by the time I really got to my friends will probably say high school, especially, but by the time I got to high school and college, especially, that you couldn't tell me much things about myself. Like I knew myself so much and I was so self-aware about many things while still learning and still growing
Mhm.
that I was just like the affirmations that I did not receive, I am going to pour into myself. Right. I've always considered myself a kind person and someone who got along with a lot of people. I had a lot of different a lot of different friends. And that's where I got a lot of my affirmation from with my
Okay.
friends. right? The people who could tell me I could do it, the people who were like, listen, maybe you can't sing, but I actually know that you got a little good two-step happening, right? The people who actually really said they loved my personality and thought it was going to take me far, the people who called attention to my smarts and my wit and my sense of
Mm,
humor, right? A lot of that came from my chosen family. And
yes.
so, and then that is really ultimately like who built upon what I would then say was also my lived experience. And so, yeah, it took a while to get there, but I'm always still learning every day. But I am incredibly self-aware. Like that is the thing I'm really grateful for myself. I know when I'm angry. I know why I'm angry. I know when I'm sad. I know why I'm sad. And again, none of this means someone is perfect, right? But it took
Right.
a long time for me to understand self awareness and a lot of therapy to understand exactly who I am, whose I am, and how I'm going to make right society a better place. And
Right.
so, again, I guess to wrap that up, I really wish, and I still process it. I really wish I could say it was like this nurture, this really great, dynamic, positive family environment. It's
Mm,
just not something I can contribute it to or attribute it to, but really through my chosen family and really through the support of myself, right? I'm able to like be like, you know what, Preston, you a bad boy, and that's gonna have to be okay. I don't
right.
care if it sounds arrogant, like you are just very self-aware, you know yourself. And many black men and many black queer men especially don't get that ability to say that. And so I'm just really grateful that I have that.
It's interesting that you say your chosen family because your chosen family, like you said, will sometimes do what your family that you were born into doesn't do,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to check you while at the same time still affirming you and not
Yep.
just boy you can't do that and leaving it
Yep.
at that, but also but like you said, boy you might not sing but you got a two step. So I like that, like
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
family affirmed you.
Yeah.
You saying that, so that's where your unapologetic spirit comes from. There's something
Mm-hmm.
that to go along with that, and I wanted you to expound upon it over here. There's something that you said on the Hope Rising podcast that I had to rewind it back a couple times. I kept hitting the back button. And mind you, I got people in my car, look, driving passengers around, they listening to it, right? We all was getting something, but
Yeah.
said something and it brought back to memory a conversation that I just had with my mom. You said,
Mm-hmm.
how do you love yourself when society hates the parts
Mm-hmm.
that you love, but
Yeah.
society is telling you it's not good? And my mom and I were
Mm-hmm.
talking. She wants me to watch this show. I think it's on Netflix called The Other Black Girl. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, my mom used to have a really big afro, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, when did the thought of straight hair become more appealing to me than my
Mm-hmm.
afro? Because I think back, I loved my afro,
Mm-hmm.
her natural texture.
Mm-hmm.
When did all of a sudden it not become appealing to me anymore?
Yeah.
And we
Yep.
talked about that. Society has said that's not appealing, like when
Yep.
you're working in these white spaces. And she talked about a time when she was working at a place and she had got her girlfriend used to do cornrows and styles, and her girlfriend did her hair. She said she went to work and she felt the looks and that. So
Mm-hmm.
she went home, took it
Mm-hmm.
out, and her girlfriend was like, girl, I did all that and you took it out. And she
Yeah.
went back to work, and there was an older black man that said, he looked at her and said, what happened to your braids? And she said, oh, I just took them out. And he said, you were scared, huh? And she said she didn't
Mm,
say anything. So I thought
mm,
about that immediately when you said, how do you love the parts of yourself that maybe you do love, but society is like, that's ugly? How did you
mm-hmm.
get to the point of loving what society has said is not good?
Yeah. I was just tired.
Okay.
Like,
And
have you
sometimes
ever
it comes
been,
from that.
yeah, like, have you ever been so tired that it's like, I am trying to be all these faces to all these different people. And at the end of the day, they can probably see through it anyway. Right. Like
Mm,
I'm worried about pleasing these people. But it's like actually I just need to please myself.
right.
Right. Like if at the end of the day, if I can go to bed happy with myself, like I'm good. Right. Like if I can actually go to bed and say, I've actually done better today than I did yesterday,
Come
I'm
on.
good. And and to be clear, right? Me being queer, suddenly again, I didn't love that immediately, right? It
Yeah.
definitely took some molding, some encouraging, some admitting to myself. And the second, I really got into a lot, again, going back to chosen family, the second I really got some really dope people in my life who were proudly and boldly exclaiming their queerness, it made it a little easier for me to do the same. But I'll tell you this, none of that was particularly easy because it's always going to be hard and a challenge for you to love the parts of yourself that society hates. Right.
Yeah.
I always actually discuss even like my thickness, I have a little bit of stomach and bigger thighs. And those are the things I remember, like looking around the gym and seeing guys who are more fit or chiseled or even going on Instagram. And
Yes.
none of it, and again, it's not that it's not cute. They're cute. They cute. Don't get me wrong. But it just doesn't appeal to me in the same way that my
Yes.
body appeals to me, right? Like there's
Yes.
something that is really important about being able to say, you know what, I'm fine too.
I'm
Right.
just as fly as you are.
Yeah. Like I'm really grateful for the people who go to the gym for health. Right. And I mean that very seriously because I'm just like, we all have different understandings of our bodies and why we want the bodies that we have.
Mhm.
But I just want people, again, this is where introspection and self awareness is important because I just want people to say, I want to be skinnier because I think being skinnier looks better on me.
I would rather
Right.
them say, come
I
on,
would rather you say that because at least that's honest
come
as
on.
opposed to just being like, oh no, it's about, I'm like, no, it's not.
It's
No, it's
not.
not. Like some things are not that deep, but some things are. Like some things actually, if we're being honest, I know people who go to the gym be like, no, I'm just going, I don't want to look a certain way. I'm like, oh, so you're going because your blood pressure's high? Like, baby, we all like to look good. So like,
Right.
I still challenge people on this notion, like, why is looking good mean you're smaller? Right? Like, what does that
Come
actually
on.
mean?
What does that
And
mean?
so yeah, and you don't have to say it's harmful. Like maybe it's not harmful for you, but I'm like, but there's still something there,
Right.
right? And I think the moment I was like, you know what, forget all that. Like if I go to the gym, it's gonna be for health or because I feel like it. Like
Right.
I'm gonna still eat my crab legs weekly. Like I'm gonna
Listen,
do what I want to do.
just
You know?
just when I was listen, all this whole year I was connecting with you. I said, "Oh no, this is where our paths diverge. I wish I liked seafood. I want to like
Oh,
seafood, but every shrimp, crab leg,
oh
anything
yeah,
I taste it, I can. I don't know if it's a texture thing. So my friends will be
it
like,
could be.
"We're gonna get a barrel of crabs," and I'm like, "When they sell barrel of steaks, call me and we will eat." Together, the steaks and the
Yeah.
crabs. But I was cracking up how you were saying you love crab, you love crab legs. My
Baby.
oldest is like that, loves
It
crabs.
is, it is, it's such a love in my life.
I love when you were saying when you were on another podcast and you said, "Oh, I eat them weekly," and they were like, "Do you cook them?" And you were like, "No, I go."
Right. Like I'm like, listen, I never said I didn't have a bad budget. So like, that's what I'm gonna do. That's how I'm gonna treat myself. And that's a part of loving me and the parts
Yes.
of myself that society may hate.
And look, it's funny because when you said about the gym, just be honest. I started to post because you show off your hard work or whatever
Of
again,
course.
and I was gonna start.
Because it is hard work.
It
Like it
is.
is. Going to the gym consistently really is a hard thing. And I really
Yes.
salute people all the time for doing that. It's like I just want people to be more honest about why they
They're
go.
going.
Right.
It's because you
You
want to
know?
wear that same size that you was wearing a couple
Yeah.
years ago. Be
And that's
honest.
okay. Right. And that's okay.
I have somebody in my life. This is so funny. They'll post the pictures, and a lot of people do this, and then they do the long thinking about life and saying how God is able. Girl, post it and say, "I think I'm cute." Boom.
Oh my
I
God.
don't
It
want the
is
sermon, Philippians 2, verses 17, when I see all of your cheeks. Just say my cheeks
I've
are looking
said
good.
this. I've said this before. People will put the most random, disconnected, thoughtful posts when they're trying to post a thirst trap. And I'm like, what?
Right.
What do God got anything to do with this picture where you like are showing your print? Like I actually
Yeah, I
don't
was
get
like,
it. I don't get it, but sure, go off.
God is not in that. Stop it.
People are funny to me.
Yeah, and I just laugh because I'm like, so I was gonna post a picture and start out with this long caption and be like, "Psych, y'all, Taria just thinks she looks good in this picture."
Uh-huh.
But when
Uh-huh.
I see that, I'll be like, "Y'all need to stop. Just say you think you look good." But I
Look,
really like
because
that.
it be make I don't even like the picture at that point. Because I'm like, oh no, I can't even like it. If you posted I look good, let me like this real quick.
What you won't do is get my like, because I know why you
Right.
posted it. You
Right.
think I'm thinking about Matthew 17 and I see all these curves and all that ahead? Get out of here. Stop it. No.
Oh my
So, oh, that
God.
is, so we are on the same page. I, like you said, I wish people would just be more honest on
Hmm.
social media.
Hmm.
Just be,
Hmm.
okay, I'm just going to say this. I get a filter. I get all that. But for
Yeah.
me,
Hmm.
when you are posting, it's not, you're not posting to strangers who may never see you.
Right.
Sometimes I look at pictures of people and I'm like, I just saw you last week. Like, that's not, your eyes
Right.
aren't
Oh
blue.
my God. Oh.
Like, what are you
It's
doing?
so real. It's so real. I mean, like, I'm like, I guess some people have to trick themselves into,
Yeah. Which it goes
into
back to,
their online version
I guess,
of
but it
who they
goes
want to
back
be.
to what you said, learning to love who you are. One thing
Hmm.
I was literally thinking about Monique the other day and how she would always talk about
Mm.
her bigness and how she loved her bigness. And then when she started losing weight, people said, "Oh, I thought you loved your bigness." And I said, I think we need to
Hmm.
get to a point where people that have platforms can say, the stage I'm in now, I do love me. I love all of me.
Yep.
However, I am working to get to a
Yep.
different stage, but I can
Yep.
love me at the
Yep.
state that I'm in.
Yep. Multiple things are true.
Yeah.
Multiple things are true. Right. Like I can also admit to loving my body type and then going to the gym, being like, okay, wait a minute. I lost. Okay. Okay. The stomach getting a little flat.
Listen,
Like,
listen.
both things can be true.
Both things can be true. Now I've gotten to the point where I was like years and years and years ago, I would just do the little sports bra with the tights. Now I've gotten to the point, I'm like, okay, I can do the sports bra, the tights with the belly band. The belly band hadn't come off yet,
Uh-huh.
but we gonna get there. We
I
gonna
love
get there.
that.
But I'm gonna love myself through it while until I get
Yes.
there. Right?
Yes.
One thing that you also talked about, which, ooh, when I tell you, you hit me like, I mean, it was like a arrow. It was another thing. When I tell you, I almost had to tell the person behind me, listen, we're gonna have to pull over so I can rewind this and type these words down real quick. But one of the things you said on the whole podcast, and I hope that I'm getting the person's name that you gave credit to right, but you talked about being a law clerk for, was it Judge S. Pamela Gray? Was that her name?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay. You
Hmm.
said that you were just going, doing. You had your bar license. You had all of
Hmm.
that. And she sat you down and said that she needed you to get focused. And you were kind of
Hmm.
like, I got my bar license. I got, like, what do you mean focus? My life is together. And she said,
Yeah.
you're doing 1,000 things well, but she couldn't see what they were connected to. And
Hmm.
when you said that, it immediately was like everything came together. And
Hmm.
then I also thought about people in my life that every few months it's something new going on. I'm doing this,
Yep.
I'm doing that, I'm doing this. You need to join this, do that. And it's not connected to
Yep.
anything. And I've always said to those people, I don't care if it's fast money in quotes or
Hmm.
fast whatever, but I just can't allow myself to do anything. It doesn't feel right to me, even with
Yep.
this podcast. You've been on a million podcasts, so there's,
Right.
especially in the pop culture world, pop culture podcast, you pull different people on, your numbers get big, right? But for me,
Hmm.
I have to feel like even if they don't know me some kind of way, I've connected to them, which is
Yep.
how I felt with you. So I just can't allow myself to do it. So when you said that, it hit home. And I liked how you said you sat and thought about what was important to you. You didn't just immediately spiral. You took a beat and
Yeah.
said, what's important to me? And so I've today started asking myself again, just to make sure, is this what's important to you? What is important to you? And how can you
Yeah.
connect it to what you're doing?
Absolutely. Listen, Judge Gray metaphorically slapped me. Cause I just knew I was doing it, right? Like, I was like, please, like, I'm good. Like, have you seen my accolades right now? And then she kept saying, she's like, listen, no one is coming for that. Like, you're right. You are a standard right now. And I need you to focus. And,
Like,
the more I thought about it, though, she was correct. Like, there were many things that I loved to do, and I was trying to do them all.
mhm,
And none of them really made sense together. It was just me being proud, me wanting to do the most, me like wanting, people to say thank you and congratulations. It
mhm.
wasn't really like this thing that was really connected to what I thought would make me better and make people better.
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't for her saying that to me, honestly, I would have just kept going down this road of doing a million different things and none of them were connected. And so I always tell that story just to shout her out because I just love her dearly. I still stay in touch with her. She's a brilliant woman and mentor. And yeah, if it wasn't for her, honestly, I know I wouldn't have made the decision to do reality TV. Because for
Mm,
some people, it feels disconnected. To me, it felt so incredibly connected. I think what's disconnected, if we're being real, is like media. Right?
come
Like
on.
media and reality TV don't pick people like me oftentimes, right? That
Hmm.
doesn't make it disconnected from me. That makes like me oftentimes as someone just not on TV.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
and so I had to, even that I had to think about it. I'm like, does this make sense for my career? And I'm like, hell yeah, it makes sense, right? Like platforms, potential notoriety, being able to share my thoughts and experiences and realities with the world that oftentimes would never get to see someone like me, right? Like
Yep.
that, and that was very connected. And so again, if it wasn't for her, even like I had to pull her words into my head when I was making this decision too.
Wow. And even when you went further and talked about your health and your blood pressure at the time. And it was like she could have helped you save your life in a way because
Mm-hmm.
you were just going, and your blood pressure was high, you talked about. So you being able
Yeah.
to center yourself and slow down for a minute without fear of missing something. Because sometimes we don't slow down
Right.
because we're afraid we're going to miss something.
Yep. Yep. That's absolutely it. I mean, there's a huge fear of missing out. And it's an understandable component, right? Because you never know if you missed out on something that could have become an opportunity.
Yeah.
But listen, if it was yours, you'll get it. It'll come back.
It'll come back. It'll definitely come back.
Mhm.
And I love the way you talked about, all right, this is what you were very intentional. That's another thing that I've noticed that is across all your interviews that you do is intentionality. We have to
Mhm.
make sure we're intentional about the things we say, the platforms we have, what we're doing with
Yes.
our bodies. And you said you decided that you were going to become a vessel and
Mhm.
communicate about the body and transitioning that into how Black people and queer people are seen in media. So
Absolutely.
then we see you on Summer House. You make the decision to go on Summer House.
Mhm.
And something you said, it was like, oh, if I could use that as a tagline for the podcast, because
Mhm.
sometimes people will say, oh, reality TV isn't that serious. I
Mhm.
left the other podcast I was doing, again, hiatus, to come over here
Mhm.
and have elevated conversations around reality TV through the lens of a Black woman. You said,
Mhm.
I don't think reality TV stops at the doorsteps of light shade. I think it's an
Mhm.
opportunity for amplification of cultures, ideas, and experiences. And I said, exactly, because I know me
Absolutely.
personally, I've self reflected, even watching
Me
reality
too.
TV, saying, now, why do you identify or why do you even like the people that you like? What's there? There's a reason behind
Yes.
you like that
Yes.
person.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's so interesting, right? Because I really do hate when people chop reality TV up just to be mess and drama.
Ooh,
Surely it is that, right? Like that there's an element to it. One, it's something that marketers care about, that advertisers sell, right? Like, and it's something that people clearly like, right? So I'm just like, yeah, it's mess and drama because it sells. It's clear that
mhm.
people like that. But I'm like the reality TV that I'm on and I often watch is on Bravo, right? Like there's an element of shade, but there's a line as well,
Yes.
right? Like we're still subsumed under NBC Universal, right? So they're like, okay, don't try it too much, try it, but not too much, right? So
Yes.
I'm like, with respect, and I say that, but I'm like, this is not Zeus, right? Like
Come
this
on.
is an
Yes.
element that there is something that is relatable, funny, understandable, and if we want to be honest, many of us are a lot of these people. We pretend we're not
Come
because
on.
guess what? We're not being filmed. But I'm like, most of what you're seeing is actually you. You just may not want to admit it
Self
because
reflection.
those are the parts of yourself you may not like.
Listen.
But there's a reason why like the Needy Neeks was the Needy Neeks and the Phaedra Parks was the Phaedra Parks. Like there's a reason
Mhm.
why their name precedes themselves because they are an amalgamation of a lot of us or who we may want to be, right?
Mm.
But may not have like the personality, the wit, the shade, the resources to do it. But there's so much I remember on reality TV where I've seen like people discuss police brutality, abortions,
Come on.
HIV. I mean, you name it. And so I'm always a little confused when I hear people say it's just shade, because I'm like, yeah, that's a strong component of it, but you may have missed a lot of the also real parts of it because
Right.
you were probably looking for the shade,
Now, do you
or or ignored the more serious parts because it wasn't entertaining to
I was gonna because it wasn't entertainment, because I want to
you.
escape from real life. And it's like there
Right.
is no if that's supposed to be real life, there's no escaping it. Now let me ask you this. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like watching the New York Housewives and the OC
Mm-hmm.
Housewives, right? I
Right.
watched them through the lens of knowing who I was watching, if you know what I mean.
Right. For sure.
So 2012, I mean, when 2020 came, there was a certain segment of audiences that were like, oh my gosh. And I get it because they wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But did you
Mm-hmm.
yourself the same way? Like, I know what I'm watching, so I'm able to kind of compartmentalize because I deal with some of these women that I'm watching in my corporate office that I go to.
Yeah. No, but that's another thing too. People expect certain things from people who never promised to give it. And so, it's always confusing to me. People are like, oh, they're too this. I'm like, but when did they promise you the opposite?
Yeah,
And
come
why did
on.
you have that expectation in the first place?
Yes.
And then you blame the people because you had an expectation that one that they never promised. So it's always fascinating to me, honestly. Like as many people really loved me on the show, there will be some pockets of people who will be like, "Oh, he's so boring," and I'm like, what did you expect from? Like, what did you want me to give? Right? Like, what would have not been boring? Right? Because
That's
for
a good
me,
question.
yeah, because I'm like, for me, respectfully, like I gave you some fashion moments. I gave you some funny confessionals.
Mhm.
Like I was in the middle of everybody, like so people all appreciated me on the show. So I'm like, what exactly did you want from me? To fight? To be messy? Like
Because
because
there needs to be somebody with a level head when everybody is on 10.
there has to be on every show. Like, I'm like, maybe some people's versions of logic is different on every show, but every show has the quote unquote logical person. Because you need them. Like
Yeah.
on any cast, you need them. Like you need a very different. Like think about it. If 10 people were all messy, it wouldn't work, right? If 10 people were all dramatic, it wouldn't work,
Right.
right? Like like casting is smart usually for most shows because they pick the smart person, the intellectual person, the messy person, the fashion person. Like
Yes.
you need all of us.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
all of us on the show.
And it just so
Yeah.
happens if you can be all of that in
Yeah.
one. No.
Right. See, I wasn't even saying that, but thank you.
If you can be all of that in one, then that's the bonus that they get. So, is there any part of you that when you were thinking about going into this, because you are unapologetically who you are, you also talked about being used to being the only, and I'm
Yeah,
there with you
yeah,
in the room, only person that looked like you. Now you're going into a show with people who look like you, and some of them, you're close to some of them. Was there any time, even if it was just briefly,
hmm
that you felt a pressure or almost a duty to
hmm
come in and uphold a certain standard of Blackness, if you will? Because I'm noticing that sometimes
Interesting.
you'll have networks say,
hmm
post 2020, we're going to put this one here and put this one here. And they felt like, even if it was unconscious or subconscious, that they had to uphold a certain standard because now
Yeah,
Black people are looking at them like, you better go in there and check so and so, or you better go in there and act a certain way.
yeah,
So, was there any point when you felt like the audience might be looking at me to come in and present a certain way in their eyes of what
yeah.
Blackness should be?
Not on our show, I will say, because but I think the freedom with that was because we were a new show.
Okay.
So there wasn't like anything. I didn't know how anyone was going to come on, right? So like,
True.
I genuinely came into it like I'm just going to respond to what I'm seeing and what I'm observing and
Okay.
experiencing. If it was, honestly, if I was cast for like Summer House Martha's Vineyard season 2 after being a fan of season 1, probably so.
Okay. Okay.
Because I do think you already have your preconceived notions of the show, of the people you like or don't like,
Right.
right? Like so, but our show, like if naturally you already are. I mean, but let me actually take a step back because the reality also is that that could be true coming into season 2 because you see like the audience and viewers comments,
Come
right,
on.
from
Yes.
season 1.
Yeah.
So there may be like some to your point like this like idea. I'm like, oh, I don't even know if I'm taking it in, but maybe I actually am. Or maybe there were some decisions made that I'm like, actually, I agree with the audience on this. Like, I actually do. Because not everything, happens in the chronology that you think it may, right? There's
Right.
hundreds of hours of recordings for 1 hour episodes, right? So
Yes.
it's just, so it's challenging. But I'm happy to say that I don't think I did, just because of the freedom of being on both seasons 1 and 2.
Okay.
But again, maybe I didn't know I was even doing it, right? Again, I'm self-aware enough to know that it wasn't probably my present and intentional to do it. But sometimes, you just never know. You're like, you know what? I probably did do that for this reason.
Well, so speaking of that, now thinking back, I know you can't give too much away. By the time this airs, this podcast episode will come out on Tuesday. So the
Okay.
first episode of season 2 will have come out.
Yes.
Thinking back now, or rather, me putting myself in your shoes, or I'll say it like this: you're an avid watcher of reality TV, so you'll see a
Mm-hmm.
person from season to season, and like you said, we'll see them this way one season, we see the viewers' comments, and then they come
Mm-hmm.
back a certain way. But now I'm thinking about it. Sometimes that's not even based on them, because if your castmate is
Right.
doing that, they may
Yep.
then react to you differently, which causes you to be like,
Yeah.
no, you're not.
Exactly. I'm like, who is this? Right. Like, exactly. No, that's real. Because it's like, I may look different, but only because I'm responding to you looking different.
Yes. Yes. Like you coming
Yeah.
in here like, nah, like that's not what we're about to do.
Right. Right.
Being a person who is self-aware and who knows who you are and knows your stance on things, was there anything watching season 1 back, or even audience feedback, that you said, I really wasn't aware of that, and that is something that I would like to either change or look into, discuss with my therapist, what have you? Was there any?
Yeah. No, but you know what? There's nothing that comes top of mind now. But I will say that the one thing that I wish, and it's funny, we just had our season 2 premiere party last night in New York, and which is where I am. I'm based in DC, but I'm in New York right
Okay.
now. And I will say that I was talking to my friend Mariah yesterday, who was on some parts of season 1,
Loved you,
and
Mariah.
yeah, my girl. One of the things that I remember, she and I we talked about this a little yesterday, but the reality is, I mean, there is some elements to like us not really kicking her out. Like that's just not kind of fully how it happened, just to keep it a buck.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but also the reality is that one thing I wish we did, and I share this with her then and now, is that I do wish we still would have invited her into a conversation to find out what
Yeah.
was going on, because I knew personally there were things happening because that's my friend.
Yes.
And not everything can make cut, right? So sometimes you have to just accept audience members' reactions to things that are not fully true.
Okay. And you have to be
And I
prepared not to fight every battle online.
because you'll be fighting all day. Listen, and I don't mind throwing hands every once in a while, but it's just like, y'all, this is exhausting. Like, you got it. Yep, that's exactly how it happened, because of course this is your friend, not mine. Right? Like, it's just like,
And you're on the show, not me.
yeah. Like, it's just, I'm sorry. Some of it's funny to me because fans love us down, but are crazy. Like, there are some moments where I see people's comments and I'm like, you don't know them, right? Like, that's my actual friend.
And they're telling you
I,
you're wrong. Like,
yeah,
I have to admit something.
yeah, please.
Going back to, for me, my body reacts to things and people. My grandma would
Right.
always say, trust your first mind. So even
Yeah.
reality TV. And it's funny, I always say, some of those housewives that y'all just now learning about, my body said no, like when they came on screen. But I love seeing strong, beautiful women, especially Black women. And I'm just going to admit this in front of you because I have said it off.
Yeah.
But your wife,
Oh yeah.
Jordan,
Uh-huh.
when her and Phil were going at it, and
Mm-hmm.
she got what I call like I don't care. And she said, I dare you. I said,
Yeah.
in love, I'm obsessed. I'm in love.
No, it's real though. Sometimes you kind of have enough. I mean, and people are gonna see that in one part for me for episode 1, season 2. Like, there are moments where you're already going through things and you're like, enough.
Yeah.
This is enough. Like,
And that is
and
real life to me.
yeah, and it may not be how you would have ordinarily reacted, but it's like, you know what? I'm sorry. This is how I felt right now, and I am not about to act like it was a mistake. Like, I did it. maybe it wasn't the thing that I wouldn't have normally gave, and I'm self-aware to apologize about something. But I'm
Okay.
like, I'm not about to act like this did not happen and that you didn't just piss me off.
Right.
Like,
And hold it in because I don't want the audience to feel like if this is real life, then this is what
mhm.
it is.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, people. One of the best compliments I always get is people were like, "You say the thing that we're all thinking when we're
Yes.
watching it."
There was, I can't even think of all the things that you said last season when I would be like cackling, like, this is exactly how I would feel in that situation. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening
Right.
here?
Yeah.
One thing I loved because I feel like as Black women, and I have told my husband this before, I love when he just hugs me because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes the world views us as so, and we're always
Mm.
taking care of stuff. But I would tell him that I want you to be my Superman, not in a way where you save things,
Nope. I
but
got you.
Lois could be standing in burning buildings and she just hold her hands up and Superman will just take her away from it. He's not fixing it.
Mm.
He's not even extinguishing the fire, but I'm going to take you
Mm.
away. Sometimes we just need a hug,
Mm.
and that's what a hug from him feels like. So when you were in the kitchen with Mariah, and I forget
Mm.
who else was in there, and the
Yeah.
conversation was happening, and you said, first of all, you asked, do you mind
Mm.
if I hug you? In that moment, I felt she was like, like I
Yeah.
can let it go
Yep.
for a second. So I really appreciated
Yep.
when you did that because so often we're not in our community isn't and of course we're not a monolith, y'all. So y'all listening, I'm not saying all Black people because we know that, of
Right.
course.
Right.
But a
Right.
lot of times in our community, there is no affection. I had to, me and my husband were intentional about being that way with our kids. Even now, one is 27, 22, and 19, and they
Mhm.
hug us. And sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
but because you weren't raised that way, but we make sure
Hmm.
we do that. So I really appreciated you doing that because a hug can solve a lot of things sometimes,
It
even if it's just,
can.
releasing.
No, it really can. I love a good hug. Love a good hug.
Now, I'm going to admit something else to you too. I know that you didn't mind because I heard you say you didn't mind
Yeah.
that little Milo had came, but I'm going to be one of them Black people that's like, a dog now. My husband grew up with animals, right? Loves his mom
Uh,
has one now. I wasn't allowed to have any growing up, so that kind of created a fear. So I'm fearful of them.
hmm.
So I said my cheeks would have been clean. Milo is this big, but my cheeks would have been
Yeah.
like this the whole time.
No, but you know what? But I said I personally didn't mind, but I understood why other people were frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, one, because I have a dog, right? So it's like, of course, right? Like it is what it is. It's no different than any other day in my place.
Yes.
I think but you don't know people's allergies, reactions. I think I also didn't care as much because I heard it was for like emotional needs and
Got you.
support.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't
Got you.
I don't know how much I believe that, to be honest, but it was stated and I don't ever want to question someone's need for something they consider for emotional purposes. Milo
That
may need
normally
some
means it
support right
helps,
now.
right?
Right. I'm like Milo may need some help right now,
That's what I'm saying.
but
Milo
but
said, now why am I in it? Now, wait
yeah,
a
because
minute.
Milo be running away from us now. I'm like, well, I ain't got time for this.
Well, you also said that you would forget that Milo was there because it wasn't like he
Hmm.
was. My wish for season 3, because I'm already saying in season 3, is that Jasmine brings her
Right.
baby. Don't tell nobody.
No, yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Oh my
So I
God.
know that you're in New York, you got the things going on, so I appreciate you taking time
Mhm.
out. So I want to ask you 2 more questions. You
Yeah.
were a professor. You have created committees and done all the things. So
Mhm.
you have to create a housewives. I'm just putting words together. A housewives coalition advocate team. You
Okay.
are only allowed to pick 6 housewives. Who would you pick to be? And I know you probably want to know, well, what are we
Mm.
advocating for? Anything and everything. Who would you
Okay.
pick to be on your
Okay.
housewives advocacy team?
This is gonna be current and former.
Current and former. Yep.
So because I'm me, they probably gonna be all black. So look, I'm like those people I really want to build teams with. So I would name, let me see, Phaedra,
Yeah. Mm.
uh, Candace.
I love her.
Yeah, she's definitely a strong advocate, honestly. Ebony K. Williams.
Come on, love her. Yes.
Who else are advocate team? Ooh,
Right
I'm just
now,
thinking.
these are your Avengers for real.
Like, we
Tiffany
like
Keys and
coming up
Paige.
like uh, look, Sean, Candy, because if there's clearly something Candy is good as negotiating.
Yes, yes, so that's four. Okay. Oh, this is good.
Um, Look, I'm like, who else would I bring? You know what? Back in the day, because I actually really I had loved her on Housewives, honestly, Claudia.
Okay, okay, okay. I can
She
see it.
had
I can
moments where
yeah, okay, I can see it. Oh, that's a good mix.
and because she actually is a professor, I'm gonna round it off with Dr. Wendy.
Dr. Wendy to you, sweetie.
Uh-huh.
Dr.
Yeah.
Wendy to you. Can I just say, I was tired of seeing people that look like me, especially women saying, I'm tired of hearing about her degrees. I wanted to hear about all the degrees
Yeah,
over and
I've
over.
never understood stuff like that. I appreciated it insofar as like I understood some people took it as actually naming it to put others down because I
Oh,
do think
yes,
that happened
that's
a
true.
time or two with Karen, for example.
Yes, it did.
But at the same time, it's like I need us to not have this like ick feeling because someone is happy they have degrees.
Yeah.
It's also like yeah, people have worked hard for them too. So I remember I was moderating this thing and I was like, hey, do you want me to call you Dr. So and so or your first name? And their response to me was like, as a Black woman, actually, anytime on a panel, like I would always love to be referred to as doctor. Like, I'm sorry how that sounds. I'm like, don't apologize.
Yes,
Like
I love
I'm
that.
asking for that reason because I know many people have a variety of feelings about that. And I'm like, so if you want to go by doctor, I'm gonna call you doctor. Like that's fine.
Listen, when I get my honorary, I'm going to expect my husband. It's doctor to you, sweetie. What you won't do.
Oh my gosh, I
And
love
then
it.
my last question, you've done so much. You are an attorney, an advocate, an activist. You're the founder and principal of PDM Consulting, a multi-purpose consulting firm focused on the power of Black people, LGBTQ plus people, and young people. You've also been a professor we talked about, and you recently launched a partnership with the National Black Justice Coalition called Preston's Point,
Mm-hmm.
which I love, that explores the
Yeah,
intersection of Black LGBTQ plus people and same gender loving people in media. You are on a reality show. You are an advocate. I believe you had a bar shut down in DC, if I'm not correct,
I
if I'm
did.
correct,
Yep,
right?
for a whole month.
You have done all of the things that some people may not be able to do in this lifetime. You've done them. So the year is 2024. So let's say 5 years from now, we're in 2029. And let me go back before I ask you this question. A lot of people, I'm sure you've heard, say, what would you tell your past self? What would you tell? I get the sentiment behind it, but for me, I've always said there's nothing I can go back and tell 16-year old Taria that's going to affect today. But what I can do is ask fit to make a deal with 50-year-old Taria and be like, by the time I get to you, everything that we've set out to do is going to be done. So I can make a pact with my future self. So it's 2029. Preston has done all the things. He's probably got a doctorate by now. I could see him in the robe and everything. What would you be congratulating the 2029 Preston on achieving, whether it's opening a nonprofit, whether it's buying a home, whether it's getting married, whether it's your sixth book deal turning into made for TV, like a
Yeah.
TV sitcom?
Mm-hmm.
Because congratulations, I think you said that you're finished your book, I believe, like
So I'm working on a manuscript.
you're
Mm-hmm.
working on your manuscript. So congratulations to
Mm-hmm.
that. So what would you be congratulating the future Preston on achieving, the Preston of 2029?
That is a beautiful question. And funny enough, you've named a few of them already. Yeah, you really have. So I would congratulate future Preston on a beautiful marriage. I would congratulate future Preston on a beautiful home or condo, right? I'm not one of those like I need to have this 10 floor. No, like something that is mine and ours though. I would congratulate future Preston on expanding his consulting firm.
Yeah.
I would congratulate future Preston on being the first Black queer man on Bravo for with a spinoff.
Come on.
Um, Look, I would congratulate future Preston on his second book, the first to be optioned for TV deal. Uh,
Love this.
and I'll stop there because I'm getting too excited to even think about it.
No,
But
I'm
those are the
excited.
things. also love your perspective on like what would you tell your like why you don't love the what would you tell your past self, because I really agree actually, like there's nothing I could tell my past self that would actually help my current self, but I can
Nothing.
certainly tell my current self to prepare for things in the future. So I
Yes.
actually really appreciate that perspective.
Thank
But yeah, but I
you.
would yeah, but I would tell, oh, and I would just tell future president, baby, the fashion is gonna be elevating
Come on.
continuously.
Come on. And I'm gonna tell the future Preston, oh, you and Taria look nice at brunch with Carlos. Y'all look
Amen.
good. Did you
Let's
catch
do
that?
it. That long before 2029
Yeah, you
though.
know what? Yeah.
So that's gonna be the best goal and easiest goal to accomplish.
Look, in 2029, I'll be saying, look at us 5 years ago, y'all. Look at us.
Uh-huh.
And I want to shout out your beautiful partner. His name David.
Donald.
Donald.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Donald,
Mm-hmm.
Donald, but I knew it was
No,
David. Congratulations. I love,
thank you.
you know how we be scrolling Instagram and y'all just look like glowing and just
Oh, thank you.
happy and just um I'll say joyful, because for me, sometimes I'm
Mm-hmm.
not always happy, but I know
Yeah,
that there's a joy deep in my soul that I can find my way back to happy. So
that part. Yes. Amen.
so y'all look so good. So Preston, I want to thank you so much for taking this time out. This was so much fun. Again, shout out to you, Carlos, for putting this together. Y'all need to go read Carlos's interview with Preston on Swerve Magazine. And listen, we're going back old school. Cut out the picture, put it on your wall, because it
Yeah.
was definitely stripping.
Look,
Is there
amen.
is there anything? Give me one little juicy tidbit that you can say, like why we should be tuning in to season two.
Ooh, I have so many reasons to tune into season two. So first of all, if you're listening to this, I hope that means you've watched episode one, season two. And so the one thing that I'm really grateful for is that I think I really leaned a lot into myself. And that's not to say that I didn't do that season one, but I think I was working for someone else. And so, it was really actually hard to engage as much as I would want to. I mean, you'll probably see maybe I should engage less sometimes, but 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 the reality is, I feel like I was able, I came in, with an unfortunate event that I do think like shaped me kind of emotionally the first few days of the trip. But I think a lot of that was real, right? And I think people will really appreciate the first episode, or hopefully appreciate it first episode because of that. But I think season two, you get so many things. You get changing friendship dynamics, sustained friendship dynamics. You get fashion. You get the looks. You get so many events. We did so many events this year in comparison to
Oh,
last year
insane.
that, from a neon party to a Freaknik party to a
Come
rooftop party, yeah, to a boat party. Like we did so many different things that were just honestly dope. Like, the fits were fitting.
on.
And I
Okay.
also think we did like this beautiful couples weekend. And that was actually a really great time.
Oh,
Well, for us, it was a good time. I don't know about everybody.
okay.
And of course, you get the shade and you get the drama. But I think at the end of the day, what always makes us beautiful is that we are friends. And so
Yes.
it's like throughout the drama, throughout the shade, I think we know. I hope viewers watching us see themselves,
Yes.
right? Because we all have moments where we argue with our friends and then we go to dinner and we argue about it and then we drink and make up, right? And
Yes.
I think that, at the end of the day with us, you see reconciliation, you see resolve, you just don't see continued drama. And I
Yeah.
think that's what makes our TV show and reality TV gold.
I love it. And I have to say this as a Black woman, I love seeing Black people show the different range of emotions that we do have and are capable of
Mm-hmm.
having.
I
I
know.
do just want to say, hey, Jordan, if you're listening, I'm going to let Preston know that I'm still his wife. I'm telling you, I love me some Jordan. Listen,
That's my girl. Look, she just
listen,
texted me too.
I saw her at BravoCon. I wasn't stopping people. I said, excuse me.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. No, that's my girl.
So, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching, also go download the audio version. Again, it's available every Tuesday and Friday, wherever it is you listen to all of your podcasts. We need to make sure that we show Martha's house,
Mother's
Summer
house.
House, Martha's Vineyard, some love, y'all. I tell y'all, the way they got me last year was, number one, they were Black. Number two, somebody said, Harpo, who this man? And number three, they mentioned cocoa butter. And I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
Y'all, make sure we are tuned in. Again, the first episode will be Sunday. This comes out Tuesday. If you missed the first episode, go back. You can also go back and binge season one. I promise you, it'll be a great watch. Preston, Thank you so much. I am not going to ask Preston,
Thank you
tell
too.
us where we can find you, because we know where to find him. I'll tell you where to find him. I will not ask him that question. He has earned that right.
Thank you so much.
Y'all, thank you so much for listening and watching. I love y'all. As always, thank you for your support, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.